Okay, we are ready to start our meeting. 10 minutes after 7. Including Mrs. McFarland, everybody is here. Our student representatives, Ada from Edwards from Tokay here, and Danny Utterman from Bear Creek's here. Okay, Danny, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Ready, salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, in closed session, we have one personnel matter. Mr. Nava motion, Mrs. McFarland seconded, and the board approved the appointment of Aaron Aiken as program coordinator of special education, effective date to be determined by the vote of 7 ayes, 0 noes. And with conference with legal counsel concerning existing litigation, case case number 2019090179. Y'all get that one? Okay, Mr. Nava motion, Mrs. McFarland seconded, and the board approved the case 2019090-179 by the following vote: 4 ayes and 3 noes. And that's it. That's all the things we did in closed session. Actually, it's not all the things, it's the only action we took. Okay, at this time we have a recognition for Mr. Benjamin Booth. Do we have, oh good. It's going to be presented from the California State University Stanislaw, the Crystal Apple Award by Dr. John Borba.
Good evening. First of all, I wish to thank you, the members of the governing board, and Dr. Nichols Washer, for providing me with the opportunity to make this presentation. Each year at Cal State Stanislaus, we recognize students in several disciplines for their accomplishments and their contributions. And one of those students, now a former student, is Ben Fu. And Ben is not only a role model for the Hmong community, but he's a role model in all communities. And he came to this country from Laos by way of Thailand. And he came here with nothing. And all he wanted was to experience the American dream. And he knew that he could do that through public education. And he did. He not only graduated from high school, but he graduated from college. Then he came back and got his teaching credential. Then he came back and got his school administration credential. Then he came back and got his master's degree. I was the chair of his master's degree thesis committee, and I was very impressed with his hard work, his commitment, dedication. He stayed on course, he stayed on track, and he did a great job. And for that, I wish to recognize Ben Fu. Ben, congratulations.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Congratulations.
Great accomplishment. Okay. All right. I'm going to declare a public hearing open. This is for Lodi Education Association reopeners for the 2019-20 year. On November 5th, 2019, the Board of Education acknowledged receipt of the 2019-20 reopener for the Lodi Education Association. Is there any comments from the board? Students? Any public comments? Declaring this public hearing closed. Okay, at this time we're at the superintendent's report. Dr. Washer.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. When we hear about tragedies, events in other school districts, we're not only saddened and disheartened, but we are also reminded of that we need to make sure that our safety procedures are in order and that everyone is knowledgeable about what to do in case of an emergency situation. And I just want to reassure you that we do that on a continuing basis, and we are looking forward to implementing our See Something, Say Something program. We did push that implementation back a little bit to January to give school sites a little more time to get that going. But we are hopeful that once that is up and running, that our students will feel more comfortable sharing information that they hear and see and learn about even on social media, so that we do not end up in those situations as well. So I just want to let you know that we do reassure our folks and that we do continue to work on safety measures every year. We do have some exciting things to share with you about our staff members in schools this evening, and we have folks here who represent each of these items. So I'm going to ask them if they want to share a little bit about what's going on in these pictures and videos. The first one is going to be a professional development effort that Creekside Elementary School is working on. As you know, Creekside is a school that is an area of focus, and they are working very hard at improving the culture of the school and student achievement. We have the principal and the vice principal here, so I'm going to ask Mrs. Shields and Mrs. Herrera, is there anything you'd like to say before we show your video?
Well, good evening, and thank you for giving us a chance to come. We're excited about the work that we're doing at our site. We acknowledge that some of the challenges and rewards that our site experiences, but when we build a team, the work gets done. It's a lot of work, but we're moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Day one with Coach Al and the team here at Creekside here in Stockton, California. So excited to be here. Let's go.
We are here at Creekside Elementary in Lodi, California, about to connect with these wonderful educators, looking to make an impact, looking to make a difference, and see how together we can achieve those goals. It's very simple today. So win, a why is necessary. In order to win, a why is necessary. I want you to think about the person that is known a widely. Maybe there's a person, there's a face, there's a name.
But we tap back into the why. When we tap back into the why, when we start having professional development meetings, they change.
And what they don't want to learn is you were not your why. They don't want to hear what you have to say. They don't want to know that you went to what school and that you're teaching. It's not about that. It's the reason why. Tell me about why it gets you through. The will. Every win starts with a W. It starts. It doesn't end with a W.
Because we have to get to know our students better. Understand their circumstances, not feel sorry for them. Understand their circumstances. Understand where they were coming from. Get to know them individually, build relationships, understand their why, and now we can have greater impact.
All right, this morning has been phenomenal. It's been very energetic and it makes me want to energize my own teaching. I guess my takeaway would be is continue building relationships with my students and finding their why.
What my takeaway from today is that Coach Al was very engaging, made us reflective of our why, and I think our staff is just going to have that much more emphasis on relationships this year, so it can really make a difference with our kids. Highly appreciative. Thank you.
And when we went out to visit Creekside recently, we definitely saw this in action. They're taking their professional development very seriously, and you can actually see it in the classroom. So thank you, Creekside, for your efforts in improving your school culture. Our next piece is a recognition of a teacher that you may know from Heritage Elementary School, Mrs. Janine Jacinto. ABC 10 had named her Teacher of the Month and went out and congratulated her and gave her the award. Principal Alberto Lopez Velarde is here also. Both of you stand up. Do you want to introduce our Teacher of the Month?
Janine not only is an excellent teacher, but she goes above and beyond. I don't know what kind of vitamins she takes, but she's very, very active. And a matter of fact, after tonight, she's going to a community meeting. Where are you going? And so she's active in the community. She's an excellent teacher in the classroom, and she's there 6, 7 o'clock weekends, taking students running and taking students cleaning around the campus, and so all kinds of science projects. So we are very honored to have you, Janine. Thank you for doing a great job.
Thank you.
I also wanted to ask somebody to come forward. One of my students is here, and she's one of the stars that's in the ABC clip, which almost didn't happen, because I got an email late one night from ABC 10, and I thought it was a joke. So I sent a message to a couple of my teaching partners and just said, I should just delete this, right? And one of them started laughing and called me and said, no, don't delete that. So ABC 10 spent 3.5 hours with us instead of an hour and provided another great opportunity for our students. And Jaylene is one of the ones that was interviewed, and she truly is a shining example of taking advantage of the opportunities that we have at our school. She's on student council, she's in Earth Keepers and Running Club and Storm Drain Detectives and Librarian Club. Anything else? A lot. So we were out this afternoon at Lodi Lake monitoring water quality with the high school kids and the City of Lodi watershed educator, and then her mom brought her back, said what a great opportunity to see our class honored. And I just wanted the board and Dr. Washer to know that when the ABC 10 crew left that day, they said, we spend a lot of time at schools with a lot of students. And they said, your students were the most respectful and well-spoken of any kids that we have ever spent time with. And just, it still gives me chills and just made me teary-eyed, and it's true.
Could you have the mother stand up, please? Oh.
Yes. I had Jaylene's brother as well a few years ago. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job, great job.
Congratulations.
Well, the seasons may be changing, but we are still honoring our Teachers of the Month. And for October, we're honoring Demeter DeSanto. She teaches 5th grade here at Heritage Elementary School, right here in Lodi. You can check this out. Do you have any more participants? Y'all have any participants numbers?
One of the reasons I absolutely love teaching is that I've had the opportunity, with the support of my administrators, to provide opportunities for students outside the classroom. We've had running clubs and Earth Keepers, and one year we had the opportunity to have kayaking clubs. So to get the kids outside of the school to take their learning there.
Not only do you get to have a great time, but you also get to learn a lot of things that you never knew about. I love this to learn about the real experience of the world.
So are water molecules something you can see with your eye? No. How many of them does it take, do you think?
Miss DeSanto's kind. She's passionate about her job and teaching us.
With all of my students, I hope that they leave this classroom with respect for themselves and for others, with a curiosity to always be learning, and with a love of the environment and caring for it.
$1,000! Yay! Wow!
Congratulations, Miss DeSanto!
And we have one for you. Mrs. Pat White is here to represent Elkhorn School. They received their Blue Ribbon Award at their ceremony. Did you want to come up?
So, Dr. Goldmiller and George Raby and I went back to DC, and we're all still on East Coast time. Anyway, but it was an incredible journey, and we were really honored to represent Lodi Unified School District. We are one of 30 schools in California. We're one of less than 100 to receive the award for the second time. So our goal is, we never rest at Elkhorn. If any of you have been there, we're going for 3. So anyway, but it was really exciting. Betsy DeVos, our Secretary of Education, opened up the event, and then her assistant spoke Friday before the awards. Erin Gruhl was there from the Freedom Writers Project. If you've not seen that movie, you should watch it. Her passion was just, it filled this huge hall. We also heard from Rodney Robinson, who is the National Teacher of the Year. And again, that passion for education, and you just saw it at every turn. Just even stepping in the elevator, oh, where are you from? And educators, we just love to talk about our students and the exciting things, and we always like to learn from others. But it was an amazing event. We brought home a lovely plaque, and but we're not stopping there. It's like we hit the ground running Monday morning, and it's a whirlwind, but it was very exciting. So thank you for helping us to make that happen too. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. We do have a good district, lots of good students, lots of good teachers. Okay, at this point we're at comments from the public. A 20-minute time period has been set aside for the public to address the board on items that are not listed on the agenda. Each public speaker shall limit his or her comments to 3 minutes. Those welcome to distribute any materials to board and or staff. Due to the restrictions imposed by the California Brown Act regarding the discussing topics that are not on the agenda, board members may not engage in dialogue about the issue. And I don't have any cards, so is there any comments from the public about things that is not on the agenda? Okay, well, we are moving on. We are moving along then. Comments from board members. Board? I have a... Okay, Mr. Porter?
I have two things. One is, 2 weeks ago we lost a member of our LUSD family, Rich Abel. Passed away November 4th. He was 79 years old. He taught in education, then he moved to Lodi. Became the assistant principal at Lodi High School. Then he moved over to Tokay, where he became the vice principal, eventually the principal in 2001. And he's survived by his wife Betty and his daughters. I won't go on and name anymore, but he was a very big mentor to me because I was a young teacher. And one thing I always took away from him, the one memory that I have of him was always give a kid a chance when they make a mistake. Just give them one chance. The good kids will know it, and the kids that haven't realized it will come back and ask for that same help again. And I always live with that, either in teaching and coaching, that always give them that first time, give them a break. Realize that everybody makes mistakes. And then the second time, if they come with the same mistake, then maybe they didn't really realize. I kind of help them out and go from there. But Rich was a wonderful individual, and he's a big part of the Lodi community. And it's sad that he is gone. He touched many lives at Tokay, many teachers, especially myself. The other is last Friday on the 15th, I attended the Lodi High School AP Trivia Contest. It was a fundraiser put on by the Phelps family at their gym. They had food, wine, so forth for adults, and we had a trivia contest. The organizer for it was Beth Osterman and other parent individuals. They had over 150 people attend, and it was to raise money to help kids to take an AP test. As you know, AP tests now are up above $90, and many kids can't afford that, so they try to raise money at Lodi High School. Many other teachers from different schools were there. You were in different areas, different tables, and you played this trivia contest, and then you won if you got certain things. They had first, second, and third. There were over 40 tables going on. Jason Johnson was at my table. He's the AD at Bear Creek. And because of him, we got second place. If they would have listened to me, they would have won. But but we got second place. But it was a lot of fun, and it was a good cause, and wonderful to see all the parents involved in trying to raise money now for what's becoming a very prohibitive cost, which are AP tests, which do help kids get credits as they go to college and save on the costs when they enter into college. So it was a fun time. That was last Friday.
Okay. Thank you. Any other board comments?
Okay. I just want to mention the marching band at Tokay going to London.
Yeah.
Fantastic invitation, and that'll be in 2021, New Year's Day.
Cool. Freitas, do you have a comment?
I do. Dr. Washer, there's some changes in your office, and Lynn Avey is here tonight. And I'm not going to look at her because she is very highly responsible for me being on this board. I'd like to thank her for that. But also, she is a huge advocate for our kids and for Lodi Unified. The 13 years that she's been here, she's done an amazing job for you and for all of us. And in addition to work on the district, she has unselfishly donated her and her family's time to guide kids in the foundation. And done so much more than I even started with. This is the last board meeting that she's going to be paid for. So if she wants to come to other board meetings, she gets to do it for free. But I know that I found her to be a huge resource on the board, and that my colleagues have felt the same way about her. So can we show her our appreciation with a round of applause? Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn. Always professional, always with a smile. Ms. Neal?
I just want to say one more thing about Lynn. I've been here 9 years, and I remember when I came on, and she was, she has helped every meeting, every time. Thank you for everything that you've done. I am a little bit concerned because she did say she was coming back for one more board meeting for something about clearing the air or something. I don't know.
Public comments are over?
Jim stands his whole public comments.
Hopefully the Wi-Fi will be down for that one.
Then we're going to miss you a lot.
Okay, all right. It's tough. Thanks, Lynn. Okay, routine agenda A. Are there any board comments or anything need to be pulled? I guess I should say. Any items on? Okay, but I think.
Mr. President, I'd like to pull item A6.
Is that the item that we were talking about, Mr. McKillivy? Okay. Item A6. Okay, any other items from the public?
Mr. Connexon, could we pull item A7? I'll bring that back in December.
A5 and 7, was it?
7.
Okay.
A6 and A7.
No A5.
A5?
A5 and A7 is from the program.
No A5.
Oh, not A5 now.
Just 7.
Okay.
Okay, just 7.
Yeah, I thought that makes more sense. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move.
Wait a minute, we got any students, anything you need to pull? Public?
A6.
Okay, that's already pulled. 6 and 8?
Yes. A3.
A3. Okay, need a motion then.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the rest of routine agenda A.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve most of agenda A. Okay, students?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, board vote please. There we go. Okay, it's been passed 7-0. The first item that's being pulled is A3. Who pulled that? Okay.
Good evening, President Knightstead, Dr. Washer, members of the board. I'm Doug Zelke. I teach music at Washington. And contrary to what my students might believe, I am human. I do get complacent. I make mistakes. I forget about things. And I was aware of some of the costs in our photocopying when our last contract was put together. Some simple math in my head was one copier I can think of where in 1 year's worth of payments, they paid for the whole copier and still had 2 more years left to pay. So as I'm looking at this resolution, my biggest concern is as we're looking at piggybacking, joining other districts, looking for other prices, I certainly hope to see those prices go down. I'm aware that our photocopying costs in this district are large, and that tends to happen. So I just hope that this is going to be a solution to lower those costs.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other board comments?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Okay, public comments, student comments? Okay, we have a motion to approve this. Board vote, oh, student vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, board vote. Okay, motion passes 7-0. Item A6.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we could have this up on the screen, the second item on here is an agreement with the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office for one SRO, School Resource Deputy, SRD, not an SRO, for services in the district. This is, I believe, the third year that we've had this, and this has been an outstanding program. I think surveys have shown and studies have shown that schools that have a deputy or an officer on their campuses perform better. And not only just in the public safety aspect, but in so many other different ways with positive role modeling, mentoring, and teaching. I'd like to thank the Sheriff, Pat Withrow, for continuing in this relationship with our district. And I'm so glad that we are doing this and hope that we continue to do this more and more throughout the future. And with that, I would move to approve item A6.
Second. Okay, any comments from the students? Okay. Public comments on this? Okay.
And I agree.
Okay, I'm sorry. Board goes first.
The SROs are a great asset. I will always be against the school district paying for them because they should be paid for by the public safety organization because it's their kids, their families that they're working with, and it's taking money away from our general fund in order to do this. But $100,000 is a pretty good deal if we can get it. That's all I've got.
Okay. Michelle?
We would like to ditto those comments about the police officer. We'd also like to know exactly what schools will that particular department be serving. Do we know what schools are responsible for?
County schools.
They're all schools in the county.
I understood that there were boundaries at certain schools they could go to versus Lodi City versus.
So the sheriff serves county schools that are in county boundaries. So City of Lodi schools are served by Lodi PD, City of Stockton schools are served by Stockton PD.
And wasn't there a question about conflict last year on one of the Stockton schools and the boundaries as to who would be servicing it?
I don't recall, I'm sorry.
Okay, so you don't have a list of which schools other than out in the county?
We have a list, we just don't have it at the top of our heads.
Thank you.
If I can send it to you.
The item, contract number 3, with regards to Jennifer Hoeing and the sports medicine, do all of our high schools have a sports medicine person?
All high schools have independent contractors who provide required licensed services at like football games, for example. These would be people who do concussion protocol, hydration, heat protocol. There's a lot of new requirements, and so schools need to have that kind of expertise. So each one has contracts. I think Tokay's here that you see before you is like more of a blanket up to this amount that they will provide because they deploy them at different events and they train different folks in those protocols. But yes, each site has their own contracts.
So will we be seeing follow-up contracts for the other high schools?
I believe so if they hit a certain limit. I'm not sure about that threshold. 15,000. So the other schools I think might be under that threshold, and Tokay is under that threshold as well. They just put it up to that level, so that is the reason it comes to the board.
Okay. The last is item 4 with the Amplify Education. This is, as I understand, an intervention that the district has provided the last couple of years. It is increasing the amount that we pay for Amplify. We feel like here we go again with another program that we're purchasing, using, going on with without asking teachers how it's going and having input on this. So as we increase, we would ask, why was this an approved intervention by Lodi Unified when interventions put in place, and the California Department of Ed did not approve this vendor as an intervention vendor. We'd like to know what research, data, and rubrics the district used in scoring and choosing this as an intervention for K2. We'd like to know what criteria, since the criteria for the state meeting the 8 goals was not met for this program, and here we're expanding again the services and use of this program. We have heard that it's a supplemental program, so that according to law, the state, we as a district do not have to go through the committee in having teacher input on this program. However, we would ask out of respect for our teachers, as in any curriculum, whether it's core or supplemental, that it have a committee and a panel of teachers that is the majority that is looking at the data, how effective is it, and since it didn't meet the 8 criteria of the state, how do we know that it is totally aligned to Common Core standards and implemented? So we'd like some information on how this was evaluated, put into place, and we're extending this program.
Do we have a quick answer on that?
I would suggest that Ms. Orgon meet with Lisa Katowski.
Okay.
Lisa's right there.
Yeah, Lisa.
You want me to answer it?
That's up to Mr.
Sure.
President.
Just a quick one, sure.
Actually, this is not an expansion of the program. The 2 amounts that are listed there are contracts for professional development, so that we can release teachers to come out and receive professional development in all of the Amplify programs that we have. Amplify Science, Amplify K2 Reading, the Dibbles, all of the gamut. So for what, $19,000, we're going to be able to release lots of teachers to receive professional development. It's not expanding any Amplify program.
So on this, it says just K2 and reading add-on.
Correct.
I don't see the science or anything listed on there. So we'd ask for the data as to how that was approved and is still going forward as the K2 intervention.
Okay, any other, which one is this, A6? Any other comments on this?
Comment.
Okay.
Michelle, I think it would probably be advisable, or helpful, I should say, if you would enumerate your concerns and bring them forward if you already have not. That way, everything can be addressed in a way that would, help you out.
Okay. Okay, student vote. Oh, did we already do this?
No.
No, student? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, this is a. Yeah, but we had a. Okay, board vote then.
Who made the motion?
No, I moved.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Jeez,
The other way around. Okay, motion passes 7-0. Item A7, this is, Mr. McKillen, you were going to pull this for later, right?
We'll bring it back in December.
Okay, so no, we don't need a vote on this. Okay. A8 then, who pulled that? Michelle.
On the instructional calendars, again, it is just our one instructional calendar, not our 3 calendars. Again, teachers would like to see all of them in the same timeline kind of approved. This shows the 21-22, 22-23. I have teachers questioning the Houston-Cerna calendars. How will they align together? Will they still be totally separate since they're sharing the same campus? And again, they'd like to see, we know that we follow Delta College with Meadow College. Now we have Meadow College and Valley Robotics. Those calendars have not been coming up to the board to be shown and approved. We'd like to see those all at the same time come forward.
Okay, thank you.
Let's connect that.
Board comments?
Yeah, just a quick question. Yeah, we're looking at 21, 22. I was looking at our website. We don't have the calendar on our website for 2021 yet.
I believe that was put up this afternoon sometime today. I asked about it, and I think it was done this afternoon.
Okay, I appreciate you following up on that. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay.
Chairman, I move we approve a.
Second. Okay, Mr. Nava first, Mr. Porter second. Student vote? Aye. And board vote?
Wait.
Aye. I was going to say aye.
Okay. Okay, motion passes 7-0. All right, so that's it for consent agenda A. Consent agenda B, student discipline cases.
Chairman. Second.
Mr. Hebley moved and Mr. Nava seconded. Students, you don't get to vote on this. Board vote. And that motion passes 7-0. Okay, where are we? Okay, other action item number 1 is the annual audit report that ended June 30th, 2019. We have a presentation, I believe, with that. Oh, are the folks here? Oh, there they are. Okay, Mr. Cohn, you want to introduce these folks?
Good evening, President Connects, members of the board, Dr. Washer. I'll let our Director 3 Controller, Ms. Juarez, introduce Peggy.
Good evening, President Nexon, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Good evening, everyone. We'd like to present Ms. Peggy Van Buren, our CPA, and she's here to present our 2019 financial audit report.
Good evening. My name is Peggy Van Buren. I'm with Gilbert CPAs, and tonight we are here to go through briefly. I know it's an 80-page report, so we'll go through every page. Just the highlights and summary of the 2019 financial audit.
Page 4 of 6 is very good.
Which one?
Page 4 of 6.
Page 4 of 6.
Of the executive summary.
Of the executive summary, yes. We do have no findings this year, so. We did meet with your audit committee on November 6th and went through the report quite thoroughly for over an hour. So, and I'm sure they're very knowledgeable and can answer any questions. But the scope of our work that we do for the district is not only the financial audit, but there's also compliance aspects included in the audit. There's the state K through 12 state compliance work that we are required to do, which includes testing procedures such as attendance out at sites and different programs that are state funded. We tested those programs that were required, and everybody in the district out at all the sites and all the different program staff that we met with were very forthcoming, and we had no issues in those areas. The other scope of the work that we do is federal compliance. The district receives approximately $36 million in federal funding every year, various different programs, and we test different programs every year. I'm happy to report also that we had no findings in those areas. The other projects that we do for the districts are the performance audits for the 2 bond measures. We're in the process of finalizing those, and those will be taken to your bond oversight committee, probably in December or January. So
this is page 4 of 6. This is generally where I stop reading.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah, we know you still.
Just some highlights this year. I am happy to report, and I'm sure April is too, there were no new accounting standards that had to be implemented. I'm sure you recall there have been some quite significant ones with pension and OPEB the last few years are bringing those liabilities on. So this year the accountants got a break and we didn't have any new accounting standards to implement. In terms of changes in the financial statements this year, there was the new GO bond issue that was in October 2018, so that's been incorporated. And as I mentioned, we had no findings, but I also want to point out that we had no audit adjustments. So the financial information that's incorporated into the district's financial statements is consistent with the unaudited actuals that was presented to you back in September. All the information that we compile and put in this report comes from your district staff, April and her team. We just get the opportunity to put it in a nice package and hand it to you. So they should be commended. We don't have quite that many districts that don't have audit adjustments and don't have findings in their audit report. There's a lot of compliance requirements, and it takes an entire team, and everybody at the district does a great job. Other than that, I know we provided you with an executive summary, and we've met with the audit committee to go through it thoroughly. You've had an opportunity to review the report. Does anybody have any specific questions for me or anything you'd like me to cover specifically in the audit report?
Mr. President?
Yes.
Peggy, how long have you been serving the district?
Almost 20 years now.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, we've had a good working relationship. So.
Well,
A couple different superintendents, a couple different CEOs.
I can tell you that when we went to that meeting, this was the report. It was,
You read it all.
and I read every line, and we're very fortunate to have the professionalism of our staff here at Lodi Unified and Gilbert and Associates doing this work for us. And the bottom line was, we're doing good. No problems. Any other comments? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
This is an action item, so I move we approve.
Oh, is this an action item? Oh, yeah, you're right. Thank you. Okay, we have a first and second. Students, any comments before we take a vote? Public? Okay, student vote? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and board vote. Thank you for catching that. Okay, and the item passes 7-0.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
You know, we've seen this happen time and time again, and it's become commonplace to us, but this is absolutely, positively no small feat. And Mr. Khan, you and your people, an amazing job that they do, keeping us in the black and out of the red, and making sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. It's absolutely amazing. This is, very few districts are fortunate to get this report quarterly like we get. And I please know that we do not take this for granted in any way, shape, or form. This is very, very much appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'll pass it on to the staff. It is an amazing staff.
Well, it's like winning not just 20 games, but it's like winning 50 games every single year, year after year after year. And I'm a firm, absolute believer that every dollar that we save and is a dollar that we properly manage is a dollar that we spend more in our classrooms and on our kids. And this is very, very important to us. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to Ms. McKilligan, personnel matters, routine personnel matters.
Mr. President, routine personnel matters are presented for your consideration.
Chairman, I move we approve personnel matters.
Okay, we have a first from Mr. Nava and Mr. McFarland, second.
Okay, all right.
Nice going, got it in there. Okay, students, you may vote because it's personnel, so board vote, please. And this passes 7-0. Okay. Student reps, let's see who wants to go first. Edith Edwards, let you go.
I can go. All right. Good evening, Dr. Washer, President Connexted, and members of the board. It's good to see you all again. I have very exciting things that happened this past week, or in the week before that. We had our blood drive on November 8th. 46 units of blood were donated, and those 46 units can save 138 lives. So that was really big for Tokay. We also had our every 15 minutes presentation, which basically spreads awareness about drinking and driving, and we get to see that through basically a live performance involving some of our students, and it was very touching for all of us and very informational. Student government right now, we are focusing on our door decorating contest for the teachers. It is fall themed, so we got a lot of scarecrows, some pumpkins, some sunflowers, a lot of that. And we are also working on our Christmas rally that is coming up in December and our Christmas Spirit Week. And this Friday, for one of our performances, we have our comedy sports. It gives a lot of people a lot of laughs. It is very popular at Tokay. And like Mr. Nava said earlier, our band got invited to London to perform in 2021 at their New Year's parade, which is amazing. Everyone in band was jumping around with little flags, and it was really exciting for them. And our sports are coming up: basketball, wrestling, and soccer, all of our winter sports, and everybody's pretty busy late into the night. So that's it. Thank you.
I'm just kind of curious, what happens with the seniors this year on the band? They're just out of luck, I guess.
The seniors, they don't get to go, of course, but
Yeah, I guess so.
but they were still jumping around with their London flags, and they were still excited for the people that do get to go.
Oh, good. Okay.
So they had a good attitude about it.
All of us.
Okay. Could you get that taken care of for us, please? Thank you. All right.
Just raise your back.
So, Tia,
Yes, sir.
the paper said that there was a private rally, that they snuck the band members in, they passed out flags and didn't tell anyone what was going on. Is that true? They couldn't print it if it wasn't true, right? So.
I mean, yeah, but like I just saw the flags, and then I heard people saying, "We're going to London," and then I was like, "Oh, okay, we're going to London," but of course not me. But
We'll try it.
All right, and the last football game Mr. Nava and I saw this year was Tokay playing Lodi.
Yes.
You cheered for that. We saw you there.
Yes, sir, I did.
Yeah.
That is our biggest game. That is our most important game. We take that routine very seriously. That's our rival school, so it's all about competition and being better than Lodi. So the Flames, got to beat the Flame.
Well, and it was standing room only.
Oh, really?
I'm sorry?
It was standing room only. I mean, the stadium was filled to capacity.
Oh, yes.
And
Oh, yes.
It was exciting for us in the stands. What was it like being on the field with the rivalry?
It's different than every other game because there's so much energy with everyone, and everybody wants to win, and everybody's rooting for the team. There's a lot of high energy, and every time we got a touchdown, we're running down, and it's just a lot of fun.
That was really true. And you know what? I think Airwood had their team, but at the end, I think we were all winners because Airwood had such a good time. It was a very friendly, respectful rivalry.
Yes, definitely. We all try to keep it respectful.
Very nice. Well, it must have been exciting to be participating in that, and we had a great time watching you all.
Yes. Thank you.
Great report.
All right. Danny, Bear Creek.
Mr. President, Superintendent Washer, members of the board, thank you all for having me here tonight. Some school activities that we had recently is pretty action-packed this past month. We had our club takeover week from the week of the 21st in October through the 25th, and that was different various lunch activities, which we had clubs from various cultures and or dance types come out to our stage that we have in the center of our quad and perform and give a little sneak peek to their international performances and or get a little bit more signups for this coming school year. And then we had our Powder Puff Spirit Week on the week of the 4th of November through the 8th. And our Powder Puff Rally and game were both on the 8th of November. And those both went very well. In student government, we currently have a surplus of funds, which we are looking for ways to distribute throughout all of the campus. And we're looking at either subsidizing some of the AP funds and/or a complete restoration as much as we can of our campus. And some special student or staff recognitions would go to the senior girls football and the senior boys cheer, who are our Powder Puff victors, as well as the 2 students at our school who have recently signed and committed to their colleges. McKenna Russell for softball is going to Fresno State, and Heather Terabini for soccer is going to Sacramento State. And then also I'd like to recognize our wonderful journalism team. They recently put out one of their new issues and are actually leaving tomorrow for a competition in New York. And some of the upcoming activities we have are our blood drive on the 11th of December. And that's my report.
All right, okay. Cool. Any comments? All right, thanks, guys. Employee groups.
Wait.
No, just ask.
Bear Creek played Stag at Stag this year, is that right, in football?
I believe so.
Who won that game?
I think Stag did.
Come on.
Sorry, I don't follow our letters.
And the Powder Puff, were you involved in that?
Yes, I was a cheerleader.
Oh my
Two
goodness.
time.
Are you going to give us a cheer?
I don't know, my skills have declined since the game.
Good answer.
How are you 2 doing on your applications for colleges?
I just finished up my UOP application and I'm going to submit my Cal Poly application soon.
Very nice. And
I'm still in the process of editing and just making sure that I have a really solid application.
I've no doubt you will have one.
Thank you.
Anyway, keep us posted, let us know how that school search goes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
No.
For this year. For this calendar year. Okay, employee groups. Okay, LEA.
Good evening, President Knackstead, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Thank you, Mr. Porter. I just want to say Coach Porter. Thank you for recognizing Rich Abel's service to this district. He may have been your VP, but he was my VP first. At Lodi High, I was a student at the time, and I will readily admit that Mr. Abel and I had a few sit-downs because senioritis hit hard my senior year. Thank you for recognizing he was an instrumental person, I think, in this district that led the youth that he counseled, and it was all about relationships. In his service work through Kiwanis, again, it was service through St. Anne's and the Knights of Columbus. Again, it was service and relationships. And I appreciate you recognizing that. He also was a advisor for student teachers. So later in life, we circled back around, and I had student teachers and he was their supervisor. So you never know where your teachers will go, and principals and administrators who guide you on those paths as you go into college. So in this little lovable town of Lodi, we have had some great people work in this district and in our community. And he was a model of respect, and I'd like to recognize, we had Ben View up here for all of his outstanding academic achievement and trying to better himself as a teacher in this district. And Janine DeCento, we taught together, and she does what great teachers do. You saw a great genre of the spectrum that she addresses, not just the academics, but the whole child, the healthy aspect from running club to getting her kids who might not ever have an opportunity to be out on the McCallum, just not on the beach, but on that water and seeing the habitat and doing cleanup. And, you know, she's very mindful of the students she has. There's a mutual respect that goes on. It was a sad time several years ago when we lost some students, and their site had a surviving family member. And they worked hard to build a community and build that respect on site for that student who lost family members. And she was an instrumental part in that. She gives her time, going out, picking up a van to take those kids out in the community. So that directing, that supervising, all that extra time that our teachers give. She's a perfect example of that. So as we move forward with wanting to retain teachers, wanting to attract teachers to Lodi Unified, we want good quality teachers coming in. We want good quality teachers staying. And what I'm hearing is some unhappiness, some lack of feeling of respect from everyone, in generalizing. More and more things are being added to teachers' plates, and you can't keep adding without taking something off. There isn't enough time in the day to do that. So from fundraising in order for teachers to, because we don't have a bus necessarily in our district to go, we're fundraising for months at some sites to make sure that kids get an opportunity to attend science camp. We have teachers in high school fundraising for months for academic decathlon and science olympiad and speech tournaments. All of these things are more work that teachers are doing, and we need your help in those budget items, in the LCAP, as we move forward in those discussions, that we're addressing the whole child, a healthy child, that we're giving them those experiences of, if it's cleanup on the beach, to, you know, extra running club, to going out and doing their own events, piloting. Oh my gosh, I've lost the word. Up in the air at different, the drones, thank you. We have all kinds of innovative programs that teachers are starting. So let's give them credit for that and give them the ability to do those things. We've seen some board agenda items come up with policy that's changing. We would like to see that all curriculum is, there's input by teachers on what they're doing and what's best. We're sad to hear that A7 was pulled tonight on the agenda, and you know, we have a bargaining date scheduled for the 25th. Without a sunshine, I don't see how we can start to bargain. So I hope that the board looks at maybe a separate special meeting so that we're not waiting to start bargaining in January. We want to get moving on that. We also, as I had made a request, you'll see that our audience is full of parents, so I will refrain from the rest of my comments to after the migrant education report. I think that we have some teachers that feel we need to respect the members of our community and see that we value them and the time that they have committed to our community also. So as we move forward, please remember that Janine Jacinto and Ben Vu are two examples of members that we want to keep in our district. Out of 1,500, you'll see lots of them like Janine Jacinto and Benjamin Vu, and we appreciate that recognition and know that those teachers are working hard and want to stay here. So let's work on keeping them.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, any other? Come on up, please.
Board President Maxted, members of the board, Dr. Washer. My name is Dean Blunt. I'm the LPPA president. I'm a school psychologist here in Lodi Unified. First, I'd like to recognize somebody new when you're into the room. Marie Baez has joined you. Maria was our secretary for psych services for a couple of years there, and you're going to love working with her. I hope you do as much as I enjoyed working with her. So, welcome into the board, to the dark side. Hey, that's usually administration, isn't that? When teachers cross into administration, they go into the dark side.
You got it.
LPPA intends to donate another basket to the crab feed this year. Our past president, John Hunt, has picked up 10 tickets to the crab feed and donated them to LPPA to attend the event. Those of us who have gone in the past have really enjoyed the event, and he gave us a warning that, sometimes it's hard to get people to come out and go to this event. And at our first showing of who wants to go, we were able to fill those seats, and we needed to pick up a couple of more. And I need to pick up a few more still. So it's we're really excited to support God Kids, and it is a good event. And I hope you all come out and support it. It's a lot of fun, and it's an enjoyable way to go, and it raises money for our students. We do have a couple of grievances still processing through going through the process. One grievance has been filed with the superintendent's office with our program specialist. The other we've already spoken with Dr. Washer and are looking forward to her response. With these grievances, I want you to know that our interests are the same as yours. We're looking for appropriate staffing for the district with speech and language pathologists and other support staff. As our district's special education population grows and becomes more complex, our responsibilities expand, and we need the staffing to be able to handle those responsibilities to serve all of our kids well. With our program specialist positions kind of dwindling, we're finding ourselves unable to provide all the level of supports and services to our schools and to our special education teachers. And those are the issues that we're trying to resolve with you to make sure that our students are served as well as they can be. We've sat down and had our first negotiation meeting with Mr. McKilligan. Look forward to a response from his department regarding that first meeting. And with one of the district's proposals, I've reached out to Mr. Kahn for some clarification on the proposal, and hope to hear from you soon and be able to schedule some time to get a better understanding of what that's all about and how that works. And that, thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Okay. Any other comments? Any other CSEA or anybody else? Okay. Thank you. We're moving on to, Superintendent's report? Okay. Okay, so we have two reports. Ms. Khan, is yours pretty quick?
It's not a lot to report. Okay. We're substantially complete up at Houston Cerner. We're still waiting on the water tank. We're beginning work on the courtyard. That should be done in short order, and then we handled final comments on architect's design for their Measure U projects to occur this summer. That design's being ready to be for submission to DSA probably by, I'd say, early December at the latest. So we're moving along.
Okay. Any comments on the board? Public? Okay, we're going on to the second one, the migrant education at Live Oak Elementary. Mr. McGregor, you have some opening solvables for us?
Yes. Good evening, President Knackstead, members of the board, Dr. Washer. A few weeks ago, the parents of the Live Oak migrant students brought some concerns about their potential chance to lose their enrollment spots at Live Oak upon the return from Mexico in March or so. And I prepared a report. Hopefully the executive summary and the report is clear, so you can ask questions if you want. I would like to preface that with I went out to the migrant camp with Principal Rochelle Nuss last night. Also, we had Manuel Nunez, who is the Director of Migrant Education for the San Joaquin County Office of Education, and his counterpart, Maria, also accompanied us. And we met with the parents. The parents were wonderful. As Rochelle can attest to, very much concerned about their children's education, very involved. I've had the opportunity to work with a number of migrant students and migrant parents in my time as a principal and assistant principal, and I'm always very impressed with their amount of commitment to the educational process and their involvement in their children's lives. So it was great to meet with them. I'd say there was probably 30 or so we met with last night. They had a number of questions. We tried to review the processes that have taken place. Rochelle did ask Maria to go in August to the migrant camp and express there is a possible concern that there might not be enough spaces for the students upon their return from Mexico due to the increasing enrollment at Live Oak with the new houses being built out by Costco. So Maria did communicate that back in August with the migrant families out at the camp. She also had her teachers communicate during the parent conferences, and she also met with many of the parents at the camp, I believe, during the October break to discuss those concerns. Would you like me to continue, or do you have any questions from the board? I don't want to take a lot of time.
Okay, well,
Can you restate the issue here, what we're looking at?
Sure. With the increased enrollment in Live Oak, Mr. Neely, the migrant families have always had open space. So as the school year started, the families that live in the area and the families that were bused in, or the students bused in from the migrant camp, had enough space. Everyone enrolled, everyone was fine. With the additional houses that are being built out by Costco, enrollment has gone up. So a number of students that moved into that area had to be overflowed to neighboring elementary schools within the district. Upon the migrant families returning to Mexico, as some have already left, some are preparing to leave soon, that opens up space within the Live Oak community for those students that have been overflowed to return. Some of them may choose to return, some of them may choose to remain at the schools that they're at. If they're, it's a good fit with their teacher, they're enjoying the school, they certainly have the right to stay at that school. But if they should happen to come back to Live Oak, that could affect enrollment in some of the classes when the migrant families return from Mexico in March or so. So that is the concern. The parents expressed a little bit of concern last night with the message not fully understanding that. That was the reason we went last night, to try to help them understand what has been communicated, that we're making all efforts and hope that there will be space when they do return, but it's difficult to predict at this time based upon how many folks might continue to move into that area during this school year and how many of the overflow students might choose to come back to Live Oak as these spaces open up. Part of the report, I've indicated or talked about a little bit about the procedures, the independent study procedures. Short-term independent study, if a student is gone 5 to 20 days, they can hold that spot. If they're gone beyond 20 days, they would lose that spot. So.
Yeah, who says that? Is that a state?
It's a district procedure that.
District procedure, then we can work with that, right?
I would suppose that's under the direction of the board.
What if that those students had a prescribed course of instruction that they took with them, and as long as they completed that, they had a space guaranteed when they came back? Can we do something like that? And before you answer, I mean, also, if they just leave, we lose the ADA for that, right? So by continuing a program like that, we could afford, through the increased ADA that we'd have on this, to get a teacher in there to monitor that program. And since it's grade school, we could have a multi-subject teacher cover several years of school there. I'm just throwing that out as an idea to look at.
Mr. Neely, members of the board, we'd have to look into the independent study criteria. I believe there are some checkpoints that at certain intervals work has to be completed and checked by a teacher. So we would have to see how long of a time span that can be.
Right, but there are plenty of programs out there that we could do distant learning.
Yeah, that's not the issue. The issue
Right.
is the connection with the teacher.
Right. So we can set that up, whether it be a connection with the teacher, could be phone call, could be video.
Absolutely it could. But we have to make sure we meet the timelines.
But do you agree with me that by doing this, we could increase our ADA, which would pay for that, and then it would give them a place to come when they came back?
We will have to make sure all of that is correct.
I said it was.
Okay, then that is.
I have a question. You have 62 students. How many of those students that are on the migrant enrollment are leaving for Mexico, and how many stay? Do we have a figure of that?
As far as my understanding, everyone is leaving. I haven't been told otherwise. Some years, like last year, we had 2 families stay. They've recently changed some of their housing policies to where they have to be within 50 miles of the camp to move that far, which would make it difficult for them to be transported to Live Oak. So this year, I have had no families tell me that they are able to stay.
Okay, there are some ways to resolve this. I know George mentioned one, which is, I think it's been done before with a teacher that had all these kinds of assignments for people that went to Mexico, and then she was in charge and kept tabs on what they were doing and so forth, so they could return back to their school. I imagine this can be done also at Live Oak. I think it's best to release a teacher and just be responsible for those people that take off, and when they come back, they got their spot. That's simple.
Yes, as Dr. Washer said, I think that's something that can be explored. Part of the conversation we had last night with the short-term independent study, that is one of the things that we communicated with the parents last night. Rochelle's building a great community, a great culture at Live Oak. It's very difficult to lose the students when they go back to Mexico, and the teachers don't have that time with the students every day. Part of Dr. Washer and the board's goals to have students reading by 3rd grade, it's critical we have as much time with the students as possible. Now with that 20-day limit, we suggested, and some of the parents were, I think, interested, if they back that up with the winter break, that's approximately 30 days or so that they could spend away if they're able to come back and find housing in the community. The migrant families are considered foster homeless under the McKinney-Vento Act. So they have a right to hold that spot within that 20 days, and they could come back to the school if, and that spot would be held for them, and they would lose a considerably less amount of time if they could hold it to that time. I know some of the parents spoke up and were appreciative of that and excited to think that, hey, that guarantees our spot, and that might be a way to keep the kids in school a little bit more, which is certainly our hope, because the kids are doing a great job out there at Live Oak.
Now, my understanding, of course, what you mentioned, Scott, is that the increased enrollment in Live Oak is because of the building and stuff. It hasn't happened before. That's why we could accommodate this before.
Correct.
Now, you're saying in a statement here, Lodi Unified is currently researching the possibility of expanding enrollment capacity. What are we doing to do that? Well, that's one of the additional information that I see on your executive summary.
Right, and that's part of that in working with Mr. Khan, the possibility of bringing in another portable. There's possibly 2 portables that could be brought in, which would free up a little bit more classroom space, which that's a very positive thing. We're still working on trying to figure out if there's a way to increase the FTE to cover the teaching for those additional spots. So that would certainly alleviate or allow those students to come back if there was space. The trick right now is how does that FTE get paid for? And that's not yet resolved.
I have a quick question. What happens when the students leave to go back to Mexico and they come back and we have to have them prepped for the end of the year testing and to be ready to move to the next grade? What happens in that time frame, and what burden does that put on not only the child, the family, and the teacher of the grade level that they're coming in out of, because we want to educate them and have them ready for the next grade? How do you take a kindergartner, 10 kindergartners, and they're gone for however many months, and then they come back? How does that work?
I know, I wish I could answer that
Yeah.
and solve that. And I can only speak for last year, especially when I talk about at the end of the year when it came to testing. So we had a lot of students come back right around testing time at the beginning of May. And so it was a lot of makeups. So they weren't even there to test within their classrooms, but we had to pull them out to do makeups. As far as kindergarten or other grades, our teachers just do their best with small group instruction and pulling back. I had met with Manuel, who is in charge of migrant ed for county office, and I just, asked if there was something that they could do to, over summer, because they have summer school, that maybe that they can make up the second and third quarter of what they're missing, and even the beginning of fourth quarter that they're missing in education, because there's gaps. And then when they're coming in during fourth quarter, they've missed what it's been building on, and they haven't been in school since first quarter or at the mid-second quarter.
Okay, I did too much research, I think, on this whole thing. It's like a Gordian knot, migrant education, because it also extends up to 12th grade. Am I correct? And the graduation rate is around 82%. Is that correct? I'm just talking all the way to K through 12 graduation from high school.
I don't have information.
Now, it seems like your problem is that these young students want to, they have to leave, because I believe December 12th is when there's a closing of the migrant camp. Is that correct?
Right.
The government, that's controlled by California federal.
The county, I believe.
No, I believe it's the state, isn't it?
State, but the county runs it, so I don't know. who
Well,
decides.
basically, it's California, and then they open it up for the homeless, is what I heard. So they have to leave December 12th, and they're not allowed back in. If their kids want to stay within the school district, they can go find a relative, hopefully.
Correct.
Or they go with their parents, which is usually the situation. Now, when they come back, do we have any stats on when the dates are they come back, on average?
I could get that for you because we keep all of the stats, but every family's different. So there's not really an average. The camp opens again, I believe, March 15th. We get them anywhere between after break to May.
So then after 20 days, you drop them as a student, is that correct?
Correct.
Is that
Because
school
we-
policy or state policy or Fed policy? What is that?
District procedure.
That's district procedure. So if we kept them on the enrollment, so to speak, they wouldn't technically be lost from your enrollment. So, I mean, again, they're not getting ADA and so forth, but they'd be beyond your rule book somewhere, right? And they wouldn't lose their spot, would they?
If it was
Because you're saying is we're going to drop them.
That's the way the procedure is currently set up.
Right. So if we don't do that,
Correct.
then we don't have to worry about the overflow because they still have a spot.
They have a spot, but they're not within their attendance boundary school, which some folks, possibly move into.
Well, if they come back though, before the end of school, that spot should still be there for them, the migrant ed.
If they're not dropped.
If they're not dropped.
Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
what I'm saying is we don't drop them, then that spot stays then open for them, and then the overflow that we have because of the building, those kids are still being sent to their schools that they're already in attendance for, or if they move in, they have to go to those because of the overflow. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so now my understanding is if they do go and if they do come back, and you're talking about gaps and testing and all that, that the federal government does supply federal money for summer school. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, have we taken any advantage of that?
Yes, I believe the.
We do offer summer school here.
Not run by us.
No, the county takes care
The
of it.
county offers it, but I do believe as a district, we can't offer that. Is that correct?
It's at Heritage, it's on our campuses.
Well, we have to provide facilities. We can't say no to it, or it's $1,000 fine a week or a day. What did it say here? I think it's $1,000 fine by the county school supervisor, I believe.
We do not run the summer school program, that is run by the county.
Can we do that?
At this point, the arrangement is that the migrant funds are with the county.
But from what I understand is they're ready to shuffle some of that because it is federal money, wouldn't be coming out of our budget, and we could be hiring teachers, being paid through the federal money on our district, in our facilities to take care of these kids.
I do know that our teachers right now are being paid through the county. So everyone's being paid and it's like we're doing it. The money's not coming to us, but we're also not paying for it.
Technically, we're all paid through the county. But, so my concern is what's happening there in terms of when they come back, okay? Now, if my thing, this is just me speaking for myself, not for the board, is that if they don't return, then they lose their spot. If they do return, we should leave the spot open for them, okay? And then I have other concerns. Who is our liaison for migrant ed? Is that you, or do we have one from the district? Do we have anybody that's in migrant ed liaison?
It runs through Lisa Katowski's department.
So Ms. Katowski's in charge of that too?
Yes.
The district.
My God, your job is unbelievable. Ms. Katowski, so you handle migrant ed?
I work with,
Mr. Nunez?
yes,
Okay.
the county, the district has a district service agreement that we develop together, and we implement that service agreement through the county office.
And that is at Heritage, is that correct?
It's sorry.
That's at Heritage, is that correct?
It is at, the service agreement works throughout, there's several parts of it. During the school year, services, during break services, during summer services. So there are all kinds of services for our migrant students. We do house summer programs at Heritage or at Lawrence sometimes, it depends.
Are we doing any parental outreach, or do we depend upon the county for that?
The county, that is part of the county's requirement to do parental outreach as part of our
We don't
service.
do any collaboration with them and working with our students?
We certainly do collaborate with them, yes.
We do.
the school
So we
sites.
send people out to do parent and student intervention to be proactive on health concerns?
Correct.
I believe that is part of the federal government?
Correct.
We do that.
We have staff that do that. They are hired through the county because the migrant funds go to the county and we deliver the services. They pay, the county works with us and they pay.
We provide nutritional needs that they needed and so forth and so on?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Now, what about, and then your issue, I've got that picture kind of in my mind. Now, what about the kids that are, say, in middle school and, of course, in high school that leave early? Because we seem to have a large percentage of students. Have we ever done any documentation on that leave early, go down to Mexico to take their Christmas vacation down with relatives there? I know it happens quite a bit.
We have a significant amount of migrant students at Murata School and at McNair School. And students, some of the students at Murata School, they do migrate with their parents. Some of them stay in contact with, because some of our coursework is.
What is our policy with that in terms of, you said McNair, what about finals, things like that? What do we do? I know when I was hit with this, it was left up to the teachers.
It is, many of the parents, it's my understanding that at high school, many of the parents make every effort to make sure that their students take their finals before they take off, but that's working with the teacher.
So that has to be arranged with the teacher. Now, do we have a school policy on that or district policy?
I am not aware.
I believe
of the district
Manteca has
policy.
a district policy.
I'm
where
not
they're
aware
allowed
of
to take
that.
that final.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
They're allowed to take the finals early? If they're migrant ed?
I
Classified?
assume so. I don't think there's
Okay,
anything.
we don't have
prohibited.
that policy here as a board policy?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so we have two issues here. One is that we drop them with 20 days. That's our board policy, is that correct?
That is correct. That is a
Okay.
district procedure.
And then they lose their spot at that school. And then also at the older levels, higher levels, where they're taking finals and so forth, we have no policy. So one teacher could ding them for those days they're not there, give them no credit, and another teacher then could give them credit or of the final early. Is
It's
that
also,
correct?
that is correct, but it's also my understanding that many times when the students are in high school, the parents try to make an effort to find relatives for the children to stay so that they can get their high school diploma. At that point in time, they have,
Well,
they're
speaking
older
to somebody
children.
that's just got out of high school, that doesn't always happen. And-
I understand that, but that
and,
is
I've
part of-
seen many good students just depend on the teacher. And I really think the district and the board should take a better look at this, especially concerning what's happening with Live Oak and the loss of the comfort they have in knowing of where they're going to be when they come back. Now, my understanding is they got the notice in August, is that correct?
That was the first communication.
You went out in August?
Maria.
And who directed you to do that?
Directed me?
Or us? To go out and tell them? that
Rochelle, I
they
think,
might-
worked with Maria to go out to the migrant camp. and
Tell them they might be dropped?
Communicate the concern, correct.
Okay, so then the individuals have been coming the last couple of board meetings. This is coming from a result of that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this was policy that was established by exec board, that we need to tell these people they might lose their position at your school.
It's a concern that has recently arisen. It wasn't an issue in the past because there was space.
I understand that, now we have more housing and so forth and so
Correct.
on. And then 20 days was something that we have in board
That's,
policy.
yeah, through the Child Welfare and Attendance Office, that's procedures that we follow.
Okay, now, when we get into overflow like that, how are spots chosen? Do we do a lottery?
How does overflow work out?
Yeah.
It's based upon enrollment, when folks enroll. So if I was to have a child come and enroll at Live Oak in the second grade, and the second grade was full, they were at capacity at 24 students.
Let's say you had 10 students do the same thing you're talking about at the beginning of the year in August before school starting. Who do we pick?
It's based upon when they enroll. So if
So
the,
let's say they all enroll at the same time. How do we pick?
I've never had 10 enroll in the same.
I'm just saying theoretically, what would we do? Do we have something to sell?
There's,
I would do
there
it
would,
based on time. So
there
we
would
do
be
scale
somebody
them by
first.
time.
Yeah, you come in on one day and another day and another day.
Right.
And I'm really thinking that this is kind of haphazard, personally. And the other thing I think with migrant ed is we need to take a hard look at, these are hardworking people.
oh,
And
absolutely.
their kids are just going with their families. And I think this 20 days is very harsh. I also think we need to look at the high school and middle schools, what we're doing there in terms of policy. And I think what we're doing here is we're not doing enough. And I see a lot of resources being used, open to us from the county, and we're not making ourselves available to it as a district. And why Mrs. Katowski, who has the most jobs I've seen of anybody in this district, overworked, has to take on this, I'm struggling because I see other situations where we have other
Because she's
people.
that darn good.
Yeah, okay. Well, only so much can be on your plate or you're gonna wear yourself out. I love you, you know that, but I really think you have too much on your plate. That's my feeling about this, is that we're in this gray area, and there's people that have legitimate concerns, and I think the 20-day policy is ridiculous, and I think what happens to these kids in high school when they have to leave early is ridiculous because we don't have a policy. And it should come from the board, that's my opinion.
Members of the board, I just want to point out that policies apply to all students, and if we were to, of course, we will research and look into whatever you'd like us to look into and bring you back some options. I would caution you to exclude other students from a change in policy. If something is a certain number of days for one, it is, just keep in mind it is that certain number of days for other students as well, who may be in a different situation, leaving and coming back as well. So just keep that in mind as we try to find you some options.
We can, however, have specific programs at specific schools.
Absolutely, we can.
We did have a program at Live Oak to accommodate these students, then that would work, and we could just.
Yeah, absolutely, we can. Just talking now about policy.
You're right.
Well, I agree that we should be inclusive of all, but at the same time, as Mr. Neely pointed out, when they come back, obviously we need some, I don't know how much is being done for teacher development on this, dealing with kids with these issues. These are smart young people, and all they need is a little extra time and so forth. I love the idea that summer school is paid for by the federal government. I think we should be doing more with that. I love the fact that we're doing interactions with the parents. I think that's incredible. They're doing parenting, they're doing healthcare, nutrition, so forth. And again, the federal government picked up the tab. I'm just wondering, as a district, have we moved with the ball quick enough to stay ahead of it? So these people don't lose the comfort they should have because of their economic situation.
And I would like to also say that I think it's bigger than just a comfort zone. You're talking about students being out of the classroom for 6 months. That puts a burden on the teacher, the students, and the family. And I think when you look at it, 6 months is a tremendous amount of time to leave an open door that to come and go in a 6 month time frame is no one wins. The teacher doesn't win, the school doesn't win, the families don't win, most importantly students. And so I don't know how we fix that.
Well, we need to.
Well, obviously we need a change to a
We'll have
policy.
comments in a minute, please, so just relax.
Obviously we need a change to a policy, but I also think that there are some boundaries in there that we as a district should be educating and giving those students every right to that education. But when you're gone for 6 months, how do you weigh that out? How do you find the middle ground and the balance?
So we pay our administration to come up with the answers to.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I'm very glad that we're having this conversation, and I join in my board's, my colleagues' quest to find answers. One of the concerns, though, is we're having this conversation without interpreters here tonight, and I think a lot of people are having a hard time keeping up with our conversation, and that I find that very disappointing. If we want to have an open conversation and get the input from the people most affected here, we need to have interpreters here to provide to aid in that dialogue. So tonight looks like we're moving forward, but when this matter is revisited, I would ask that we make accommodations for all of the attendees so that they can have meaningful discussions.
Well, December 12th is coming pretty quick.
Mr. President.
Mr. Hebley?
I understand the 20-day process, and I also understand that there are, it's a cascade effect. If we change that, we're changing it for all the schools. So I think there is a middle ground there, and Mr. Neely kind of hit upon it, is that you leave it at the 20-day. However, if Live Oak Migrant Ed has a program, their policy would be a different time frame. That is within our control. That way, there is, I guess, a little bit more reason in the timeline to it. The one thing that was, I don't think, brought up tonight is that, okay, I buy a house in the new subdivision. I go to register my child at Live Oak. That's based on whether they get in or not, is based not only on space, but the time in which I registered. I remember spending the night out in front of my child's elementary school so that I could be, I think I was third in line, okay? So it not only is it the date, but like you said, it's time stamped. And then that is the criteria that we use to load the classes and determine who gets overflowed. So how many, so the kids that are in the new subdivision, their parents register them. That's the only worry. We're going to find out if there's space at that grade level or not, and that's how we determine our overflow, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, okay. At this point, how many of the migrant families have lost their space at Live Oak?
A couple.
None, but
We have families that have already left, and we had a couple students that were overflowed that had been at our site for over 2 years, and we called them back after being gone for a month and a half. So many families have already left.
got it. Okay.
But we won't know the amount of spaces until.
And the space will change every year.
Correct.
As more and more homes come in. So we're trying to get ahead of this. I get that, and I think that's good.
Exactly.
But I don't think it's black or white. I think there needs to be some out-of-the-box thinking and kind of a can-do attitude instead of, I'm not saying anybody is, but we don't want to build this timeline that's really unreachable. So maybe, like Mr. Mealy said, is that if there's a defined program that the migrant families would fall under, their timeline would be a little bit different. Just a thought. You guys figure it out.
We will absolutely look into that. We also think that putting an extra classroom space may help, at least for this year, so that we can work on some longer-term plans.
I heard people say that, that we were talking about putting one classroom out there, but how does that affect we have 6 grades out there, and the numbers, we're overflowed by just one kindergartner with 7 second graders, and then 6 third graders and 1 fifth grader. So how is one classroom?
There seems to be a grouping of the second and third, so if we had a combination classroom added, it could bring in those for sure, and then the others are, the 1s and 2s are easier to accommodate, but those larger groups aren't. So if we had an extra classroom space, the school could do some adjustments to hopefully bring at least most of the students to space.
Michelle, has that been like that? The second and third grade, were they higher as first and second graders? Was there a larger number of students in those groups as well?
We kind of have a little bit of a bubble, and I kind of just wanted to mention the kindergartner and the 5th grader that's overflowed was because one of a 2nd grader that was overflowed had siblings in our attendance area, and the parent chose to take their kids, and that's why. So we do have space in kindergarten and 5th grade, but they wanted their siblings to be together, and we didn't have space for one of them in 2nd. So that's for those numbers. So we really only do not have space this year for 2nd and 3rd grade, and we're over on those.
So you've had that same bubble going through all years so far?
Last year wasn't a problem because we had less students enroll in those homes, but we did have a combo that we lost as far as FTEs.
Do you have any combos now?
Yes,
What grade?
4 or 5.
4 or 5 now.
Ms. Katowski, how many migrant ed students do we have? Is it not just Lodi?
Oh, it's not just 11. I'm sorry, Mr. Porter, I would have to check the service agreement. Right off the top of my head, I can't tell you how many migrant students are within the district of Lodi. I just don't have it in my noodle right now.
Well, because this obviously is a problem at every school.
It's much more a problem at Live Oak School than at the other 2
Because of the
schools.
location of the camp, I get that. I was just curious what we're doing with the other students that are gone as well. If we're gonna make adjustments for these students, it should be for all.
I'd like to see some options come up and discussed, and let's try to resolve this. This is very important. I know it's important as I was growing up, because I can see these people are very concerned, and just like Courtney says, they're pretty good. They're hard workers, and we need to accommodate them somehow. Thank you.
Isn't it correct that Mr. Jimenez was a migrant student? He was. Sorry? Mr. Nunez?
Were you a migrant student?
Yes, I was. And now he's working for the county, so there you go.
See, he didn't go to Mexico, see. I'm a migrant also, but I didn't go to Mexico.
Where did you go, Mr. Nunez?
No, I did. When we were children, we would go every year for about 3 or 4 months.
Oh, my
we would
God.
go to Mexico.
Yeah.
And we got to a point where my parents were told by the school that it was impacting too much. So at that point, they made a decision. They would keep going. They would leave me with, actually, my siblings and I with grandparents in LA when they went to Mexico.
And then what college did you attend?
I'm sorry?
What college did you attend?
I went to San Jose State University.
And then you taught high school for a while too?
I'm sorry?
You taught high school for a while as well?
Yes, I taught high school in
Now you work for the county. I'm very, very, very proud of you. You're an inspiration to me. Thank you very much.
No, I got a comment before we move on too, so.
I'm going to brief Mr. Porter on this. it actually is more than just Live Oak. When I was teaching 6th grade at Creekside, I had students that left there too for months at a time. So we need to kind of look at this whole thing, but we've got an issue right now at Live Oak. So.
The migrant campus there, George, that's why.
Right, that's what I'm saying, that's why we need to address that quickly, but we also, don't forget about the other schools as well, because they've got some issues also.
Yes.
We haven't heard that there are enrollment issues at other schools. We have heard about this one, but we're hoping that we can do a temporary fix with adding space while we work on a longer term solution.
You don't hear about the others so much because it's just a few of them at each school, but still, you know, I had twins that left us for a couple of months. They were doing great until they left and came back 2 months later, and they were so far behind they didn't know what to do. So yeah, it's in other schools as well. So we need to look at it like a district program.
Absolutely.
One other thing, I think, listening to this conversation, I kind of think our enrollment procedures are probably fine that we have. And we do need to look at towards solutions, but I'm kind of curious is if we've involved the teachers that actually work with those students to look at the solutions that they may have. Because it's a specialized group, and I think we probably need to involve those, especially those site teachers that are involved with those type of students. They may have some great ideas. Okay. Yes.
So when is registration for, let's say, kindergartners for next school year? Pardon me?
February?
February. Okay.
Now, some of these parents, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in a lot here on this issue, but I did spend a lot of time on it. Now, some of them don't have the luxury of Mr. Heverly sleeping on the school room floor before the door opened.
I was outside.
Oh, you were outside. You know, so I think this time stamp is just not right. If you're a single mom or dad and you got to work and your kids and you can't be there, and I'm more of a line of a lottery, and I just believe in it. It's fair, and it's not predetermined by economics or anything like that. So whether you come in and enroll in February, did you say February? Is that correct?
For kindergarten.
Kindergarten, and you come in August.
Okay.
You know, it's.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay.
Rochelle, of the 62 students that we're talking about, what percentage of your entire school is that?
Yeah.
About 281.
That's a high number.
A little under half.
300.
More than that. I mean, roughly. Is it a third of your school?
20%.
20%.
About 20%.
So this is significant.
It's significant, and I think that you are kind of it's a pilot program that we need to create and do right by.
Okay. I'd like to give the public a chance to speak before we close up shop here. So is there any comments from the public? Come on up and stand right behind Michelle.
I have to start with, it was not brought to our attention until the board meeting as teachers. And it was a parent here, through my broken Spanish and his broken English, that we were able to communicate what was going on, because I thought he was here on something completely different. I was then contacted by teachers who said, this isn't right. And I have to tell you, I've had, our migrant population was much bigger years ago. We had a migrant track, if you remember, on year round. It was track E. We know that that is not legal and not appropriate to track students by that. It is a form of segregation. I have to say that we need some direction and clear direction on how we deal with families. I heard from members and from the community that their students are coming home crying. They are being told by staff that they don't have a spot and they're not going to be coming back. And that's heartbreaking. We need to make sure that we are addressing that child as a whole and that family altogether. And thank you for addressing the translation. As I went out, because Needham has had a migrant population, and we've dealt with the being gone for 3 months. Currently, they have 12 migrant students, and 2 have already left, so they have 14. There is a lot to this, and yes, because of the housing, it changed. But I think how we went about addressing the community on this issue, we need to take a step back and fix it and make it right and make those families whole and not worried. You have seen them here for 3 board meetings. There was a meeting last night. We were totally unaware. Of course, we had rep council, and it wasn't until afterwards that we, as teachers, found out about the meeting. We have teachers that were on break for the 2 weeks in October when they were told that they would not be having their spots. That's the message we got as teachers from the families and the community. Yes, the McKinley homeless law, I think, does apply to these students, and I really like the out-of-the-box thinking, an independent. We've held those spots for longer than 20 days before, and I've done those independent study packets for kids, because they don't have necessarily the Chromebook to take with them, whether it's Mexico or Washington that they're going, and they don't know exactly when they will need to go until they get the call for the work. So sometimes it's leaving earlier than when the camp closes. So let's be strategic in addressing this and making sure that we are making sure that those students feel safe and they are wanted. And so we need to take corrective action on that. I understand that there are community liaisons for some of the schools. Needham has one. I believe Lawrence has another with migrant education. We need to do better at addressing the work between, and there is a liaison from the County Office of Ed, Migrant Education Program, with those. In the past, we've done intercession. What a great example of using our tutoring time, our teaching time during intercession, having Saturday, Sunday makeup sessions, something so that teachers can catch those kids up. Let's think how we can keep them. And my understanding is parents are kind of given, we're gonna build capacity. There could be a room there for them. So I don't want to give them false hope. I don't want to hear that we're setting out a plan, and yet tonight, I know it was on the board agenda. I don't know that we have a plan. We've talked about it. Are we committing to a portable? Are we committing to a 2-3 combination to help fill that bubble so those families know? Those teachers can write those independent study packets. They can start walking with, I always had the old, 5-6 textbooks that I could send with kids and assign those readings. We can do this. We do get ADA when they complete those independent study packets. And are they a lot of work for the teacher? Yes. So maybe we need to look at, if we're looking at 62 here, 12 at Needham, how many at Lawrence, how many at Heritage do we have? And it is more than one, as several of you have pointed out in the policy. They have a large group because they are out at the camp. We really need to address this. We know right now, 14 overflows? So when those students come back, if we say we're not going to hold those spots, we're going to overflow them where? So we've got that issue also. Those students coming back, our migrant students coming back, will have to be at another site. And so they're starting with another teacher. And if there's any way that we keep them with same teachers, we know that consistency, knowing the rules, knowing the program, they're off and running. And if we can do some kind of intercessions to make up so they're not falling behind, let's do it. In talking to Mr. Nunez on the phone, I think we've got someone who's willing to work together. But I think all of this came about with not all parties on board as to what was happening. It was behind. And again, we haven't done this in the past, so this is new to these families. So let's make sure that, and gosh, I hope that, as I understand what happened at yesterday's meeting, that maybe something was said that isn't quite set in stone. So can we tonight come up with a timeline to let them know to go forward? Because being in limbo and having those little kids know that they're being told they're not coming back is just heartbreaking. And so we've got to do better, and we've got to do right by them. They are in our community, and they are hardworking, and they make our community, Lodi. We're founded on this premise of agriculture and workers throughout the state. I had them going to Washington, all the way down to Mexico, and they're hardworking people. Let's do right by them.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Give us your name, please.
Good evening, my name is Roberto, and I would like to say thank you to the board and to all the people that is working to trying to give us an answer in a short time. We understand that. Just got a two comments that I would like to discuss about the two comments that I heard. It's not 6 months, it's 3 months. I know that sometimes people leave a little bit early, but I'm really sure that if that's the case, it will be like probably 2 or 3 families that it will take like 4 or 5 months, not all the way to 6. Sometimes people leave early, because they leave early because their jobs, they finish early. But that's the people that sometimes they make the arrangements to come back sooner. That's the ones that come on February or on the end of January. That's the people that comes early. Sometimes they have to make arrangements to come back early. But that's one of the comments that I just want to say, that it's not 6, it's 3. And the other comment is that I heard that if it be high school students stay a little longer, and why did the light bulb, they doing the same thing? The answer is because it's hard for us, like a parents, to separate the family. And sometimes with the high school, the family, they have high school students, they stay a little bit longer. It doesn't matter if they don't have a job, they stay a little bit longer. So their students can take their finals, exams, and then they took over, they move to Mexico. Sometimes the families, they're stayed a little bit longer, but we couldn't do that with our kids. Sometimes we make the arrangement to live it with like an uncle or with a family. But it's not the same to live a high school kid that like a elementary student. It's more difficult, and especially for us, it's more difficult with the migrant camp. Sometimes the families that they come early, the dad had to stay in Mexico, because if they both of them come here, we're not going to be able to get her home again. Sometimes they give us that option. If we have to move 50 miles away or far from the area, if the dad is staying in Mexico, they can stay here or rent right here. But it's more difficult. Sometimes it's really difficult. If the dad is staying in Mexico, the wife comes here, no work, taking care of the kids. The rent, it's really expensive. For an apartment, it's like $40, $50 a month. Plus, the other problem that we have with the rents, it's the apartments, they want like a year of contract, or at least 6 months. We only need it for 3 months. That's the other problem that we have. Where it's not like a migrant, it's really hard. We work really hard, picking grapes. We do a really hard work, working on really temperatures that sometimes some days are really hot. Like right now, the people that they have to come in February, they have to do the pruning. It's really cold. Sometimes it's raining and we have to work. It's really hard for us, and I just want to say thank you to trying to give us an answer, and I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have a comment? I think what we're particularly interested in is we understand there's a problem. I'd kind of like to hear what you think the solutions might be.
Solutions. Well, first of all, I'd like to, thank yourselves and Mr. McGregor and Ms. Nuss yesterday for meeting with the parents. I received a call last week from the parents. I knew a little bit about what was going on, but I hadn't had the chance to meet directly with them. So they brought their concerns to me, and I thought, they were very sincere about their concerns, and so I thought it would be great to move forward and have this conversation. And again, I'm here to support them, to advocate for them, really, because as they stated, this population is probably the most migratory of the population that we have that live within the region. And so we're a region of multiple districts. So Lodi is the second largest district with the most students. So we're at about 453 students here in Lodi. Definitely that was a larger number before, but it has gone down. But this population that's here today is probably the most migrant of the population within the county, really. And so, we came together last night to see, hey, what are the solutions that we could, come up with? Definitely, some of the ideas that I heard today are plausible. One is, what's being proposed is to have some more buildings there on campus to see if that can provide a solution. We do have summer school. So I do work directly with Lisa. We work on the district service agreement to see what are the needs of the students. And one of those is, well, they're gone for this period of time. So the focus for summer school is they've missed several units during that time. So why don't we focus on those units when they come back in summer school? Additionally, there's after-school programs that are running at Live Oak and Marana. And we provide, with that budget that we have for the district, there are monies that are being provided for transportation for students at McNair High School as well. They have after-school programs there, so it's more of a transportation need there. So we look at the needs every year and see what is needed. This is specific, right, to this population that is here at Live Oak. So some of the parents have suggested, well, there was a track system, but as we've heard, that is segregation, so that's not a legal solution. And so we're thinking about, I've suggested, well, maybe we can expand summer school probably into July. And for us, our fiscal year is July to June, so we would have to work with our contact, and at this point, Lisa, to extend that summer school time there in July. Right now, we're just running in June, and that would help to alleviate some of the loss of that interruption in the children's education. I'm just open to working with the district and on my part to see what we can do to help solve this. And that's all I can say. I don't have a solution right now, but I'm open to working with the district and definitely appreciate everyone's input on this, and I hope that we can come up with a solution for these families, because definitely this population, when I first met with them, and I'm sure some of you who have worked with them, they just totally remind me of my parents. And wherever I go, I tend to say, you know what, my parents are my heroes, because I don't know how they did it. They had 9 of us, working in the fields. I worked picking berries, so I grew up out in the Salinas area, and I did that till I was about 18 years old. And they instilled really good values, and I know these families are instilling really good values in their children, and they just want the best for them. And they're trying to see how the impact of this, doesn't get so severe that this is going to be a constant thing every year. So how can we get, like you mentioned, in front of it? How can we start planning for it from now? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chapter 9, the student reps, if you want to bail out, I know, I'm just, hang on. If you need to bail, it's okay. Okay, next speaker.
And thank you for your time. Maria Alfici, and I'd like to just start off with repeating a couple things I heard that I really do appreciate. I heard you say we are a team at one point, and one of the things that I just want to express is not only are you a team, but you're a team with us. I'm a teacher right now in an elementary school. I've been a teacher in a middle school. I've been a teacher down in San Jose where I was really involved with the migrant workers over there. So when I'm hearing issues like this come up, it really hits close to my heart for a number of reasons I'm not going to get into because I want to actually finish what I'm saying. So I just want to start off with stating that I really like the idea of some sort of independent study program being put into place for a number of reasons. Number one, you have the money that way, the ADA. If we're doing it for, in this district, I've done it for home hospital, I think is what we called it. So why can't we come up with something similar, which will keep the kids active? We're talking about students who are hardworking. We're talking about students who are more than willing to do the work. We have Chromebooks now, so it's not like when we were in school, we couldn't do things, as easy. Now we have computer access. And even in Mexico, there's computer access. Even in Washington, there's computer access. So where there's a will, there is a way. And as I stated before, these children and these families are willing. I know it. I've taught them. I've been them. I've been around them. I'm a descendant of one of them, so I understand. Putting into place something like that will not only give us the money, it'll hold their space. It'll give them less of a deficiency to deal with, building that gap, so they're not gone. They're working while they're not present, but they're not gone. So that's just something I want you to really think about. If we can put into place something, they're continuing to show their effort. They're continuing to turn in their assignments. They're not really absent. They're here and they're present, whether it's one day a week that they're checking in or, whatever you come up with in a new program that you might put into place. Also, I wanted to talk about just stability. It's super, super hard, as these families behind me can tell you, when a family has to make choices, like leaving their children behind or taking their children where there's not the proper schooling. Those are already some burdens that the families have to deal with to improve their family, to come out on top, to live the American dream that we all want. So if we can help those burdens on their shoulders a little bit lighter by creating a simple program like some sort of independent study program, I see it as a win-win-win. And I say a win-win-win because not only are we gaining the ADA money, they're gaining the education and not having the gap. And the third win is my teacher perspective. When a student is coming in and out of my classroom and they have that gap, it is so difficult as a teacher to try to catch them up. So if there's less of a gap or some support along the way where they're not just gone, it makes it easier for me as a teacher to go ahead and say, all right, I know what you've been working on, let's continue. So other ideas that I was also thinking about as I'm sitting here, where the monies are provided right now, I do tutoring after school whenever I can. They will stop tutoring as soon as testing is up. Well, for these students, they'll be coming in back in February and March. So for these students, why aren't we continuing the tutoring after school through the end of the school year? We're keeping them there, we're keeping them active, we're keeping them engaged. What else do we want? So just some extra ideas, solutions. I love, being part of a solution and not just, here's a problem. And finally, last thing I'd like to state is I would like to see soon somehow communicate, maybe through email or something, but a follow-up date. As Michelle Organ mentioned, there was a meeting last night that we didn't know about. The more involved, the more ideas we get, the quicker we get solutions. So just if we can come up with another date quickly, think tank time, let's go, let's do, and move forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your suggestions. I have a question,
Okay.
simply for the last speaker. When you were talking about the after-school tutoring, that's kind of on that same vein of extending their learning day, basically. Okay, because I think that's it's not a one-shot is going to fix this whole thing. It's a whole bunch of incremental steps that we need to do, again, to keep them engaged.
And each time we do the after-school tutoring, it's up to the principal's discretion, but we set different criteria. Last year and the previous years, we've always gotten like those ones that are, the ones, and we want to bring them up. This year, we were told to get the twos and bring them up to 3, to proficiency. So if, that during your principal meetings, if that's put into effect, if it's communicated to them as well, that these funds for these activities which continue are focused on whatever you decide, that would also be a very good tool to make sure that principals understand what the after-school funds are for too.
You're saying, okay, after-school funds. Okay.
Or if you do the after-school tutoring.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other comments?
Good evening, Amy Ramseller. I taught at Live Oak for many years, all the way back when there was still E-Track. I totally understand the point of the track being a segregation type issue. I understand that, but at that time, I have to say truthfully, it really met those kids' needs because they were in school at the times that they were here, and that's how their school calendar ran. So in essence, their summer break was the December through the March, and they went all summer long while everybody else was off. During my time there, we did intersessions during the 2-week breaks. We did tons and tons of after school work, before school work, which was great, but all the funding for that came out of site monies. So it was limited, way back then even, as to how much money was in the site's budget and how much could be spent to pay teachers to be there, to do that extra work that needed to be done for those kids. I will tell you that in my time there, and I'm sure these folks here can attest to this for you, they rely very heavily on all of their little ones especially being in one place because they're out working. They rely upon the fact that they know that their children are getting on the bus at that camp and they're going straight to the school and they're all together with their siblings and their relatives, and then they're coming back safely together all at the same time. It's security for the families and it's security for the kids because most of the time the parents are working. They're not there necessarily when the kids are getting off to school. They're not there necessarily when they're coming home. And I know in my experience that was a huge concern for them. So I'm sure being faced with the fact that your kids may be scattered to the wind is beyond frightening to them. In my years there, we never gave up their spots, regardless of how long they were gone. They had a place to come back to. And I understand enrollment has changed because of housing increases and all of those kinds of things, but I have to say we knew that those houses were going in. They've been being built for a long time. That huge apartment complex, it's taken a long time to build. So in my opinion, we're a little bit behind the ball here because we didn't anticipate that happening. So I just encourage you, there are lots of things that the teachers do, have done, and will continue to do in order to help those kids. But it's going to come also with a price tag that you folks are gonna have to consider. And these kids deserve that. It's extremely difficult for them when they go and they come back, and it's extremely difficult for their teachers to try to compensate for that time. So I encourage you to really, really think about the effects it will have on these families directly if we give up their spots. Thank you.
Okay, so, to speak the obvious, we know there's a problem, and you've heard a couple of things that we would, that we'd like for you to consider, and maybe on the next meeting, you can come back with some potential solutions for us to vote on. Okay.
Mr. President, members of the board, there may be some things we can do that you don't need to vote on that we will inform you about, but
okay.
Absolutely, if there's things that take board direction, we will speed it up.
The bottom line is, some kind of solution, some kind of positive thing for the folks that we serve. Okay. Okay. Any board advisory committee reports? Okay, can we have a motion to
move to adjourn? Second.
Okay. Go break. That part just whatever. We're out of here.